From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo. This is From the South. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza has condemned the European Union for interfering in the affairs of the Bolivarian Republic. Speaking on social media, Arreaza said that Venezuela hopes the EU reconsiders its alignment with aggressive United States interventionist policy. He also criticized EU support for the unconstitutional behavior of the extremist opposition in Venezuela. The foreign minister was responding to an EU statement about the German ambassador to the Latin American country. Daniel Kriener was declared persona non grata in Venezuela for breaching diplomatic norms. Citizens have gathered in support of Venezuela outside the United States Embassy in the Dominican Republic. They were protesting in rejection of U.S. interventionist policies. The U.S. Representative Robert Bernstein and the government of Danilo Medina sent in police officers who violated the citizens' right to free expression. The police cordoned off the demonstrators, ensuring banners of Hugo Chavez, Nicolás Maduro, and the Bolivarian Revolution couldn't be seen by the public. A South African ruling party delegation is visiting Venezuela this week. It's both a fact-finding mission and a solidarity mission. For more on their work, we spoke with its second Deputy General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, who is in Caracas.
The South African government has opposed the United States unilateral imposition of sanctions and also its pretext that it wanted to provide in the Security Council to go and militarily engage in Venezuela. And as a result of that, South Africa joined countries such as Russia, China, and others. And you must remember that Russia and China have got a veto power in the Security Council. And in that way, South Africa is using its seat in the Security Council to advance what we call the fundamental ideals of freedom, peace, and coexistence of nations and multipolarity in the world. We will tell fellow South Africans that the media campaign that has been unfolded in the major media news outlets such as CNN, BBC, and others is but part of a brainwashing campaign and also a pretext to demonize Nicolás Maduro and the peoples of Venezuela. And we know this script has played itself out in Iraq, in Libya, and this is what they want to do. They want to create havoc and they want to go on a killing spree of the peoples of Venezuela and the region. And we are saying we will not have war in a region that has been declared a region of peace, which is Latin America. And those of us who support peace are going to stand up. And therefore, the peoples of South Africa have to stand up and join the millions of people supporting the Bolivarian project and supporting peace in the region and the world over.
We also asked about the South African Communist Party's strong condemnation of what it calls bogus humanitarian aid. The delegation was fortunate to have visited Venezuela during the anniversary of the passing of Commander Hugo Chavez.
It is important for us to continue to expose the lies, the threat, and the many other things, the mechanizations, as we say, of the United States. They're setting up so-called pretext to try and attack, importantly, those countries that have developed an alternative developmental path to the capitalist paradigm that is the United States. Countries such as Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua have now been named as terrorist countries and countries that are going to be attacked very soon. And we have seen the announcements that have been made to strangulate the economies of these countries, therefore meaning that the people of these countries are going to suffer even more. And therefore, those of us who support alternatives across the world, that the world is not uniform, but also support the sovereignty of nations, have to stand up and oppose in our million US mechanizations of trying to impose their ideas and their thoughts on the majority of the peoples in the world. The most important event that we attended was the occasion to mark the 6th year of the physical departure of Commandant Hugo Chavez, which was held at the 4th Quartal, which was a very solemn occasion. And we had the real possibility there to pledge our solidarity with the family, but also with the president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, whom we met very briefly and expressed our commitment to continue to support the Bolivarian project.
Ahead of International Women's Day, the first anti-imperialist conference in defense of peace, sovereignty, and independence has been held in Venezuela. The event was organized by the National Union of Women and is dedicated to Commander Hugo Chavez, who self-identified as a feminist. The objective of the conference is to construct a project that emancipates society, but with particular focus on women. Special attention is also being paid to creating gender equality. A women's organization in Argentina is knitting the largest flag in the world to protest against femicides. Tejiendo Feminismos is knitting a small squares with the names of murdered women. Later, they will assemble the squares to make one larger flag to display at the National Meeting of Women in October. Women from around the country and the world have sent in their squares in support of the campaign.
Through the knitting, we can weave everything we want to say, things that some of us can't say in words. It's in memory of the girls that are no longer here.
Well, this is something I can do. It's something that demonstrates our fight. We are claiming our rights. We are demanding that they do not kill us anymore.
And one day ahead of International Women's Day, women in Spain are calling for a strike. Our correspondent in Madrid, Adriana Cardoso, has more details.
Just few hours remain before the start of the strike for International Women's Day. In Spain, Spanish feminist organizations have been organizing the day's activities for months. They have called for mobilizations in all Spanish provinces. In Madrid, those mobilizations will begin at midnight. Later at noon, on Friday, there are other events planned, such as the reading of the Feminist Manifesto in universities and public squares. At 2 p.m, organizations plan to have feminist picnics around the country focusing on 3 main topics: violence against women with the slogan, "If one of us is abused, we are all abused"; housing issues with the slogan, "A strike as big as a house"; and finally a demand for the respect of care workers and housemakers with the slogan, "If we stop, the world stops." But the day's biggest demonstration is set for 7 p.m. in Madrid. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to join. The feminist strike of March 8 is not only a labour strike, but also a student and consumer strike. Women are being called to stop their daily activities and take to the streets.
And now we're joined by Black African feminist Beatrice Savadye, a woman and children's rights activist from Zimbabwe. Beatrice is the founder and director of Roots Africa. Beatrice, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
What are the challenges that women still face in Africa?
Women in Africa are facing challenges that every other woman is facing all over the world. There are a lot of challenges that include the shrinking civic space, a space where women can openly engage and talk about the issues that affect them. There is increasing shrinking of space where women can participate in decision-making spaces, like getting into politics. There are a lot of sexual and reproductive health issues that women are grappling with, issues of maternal health, HIV. So it's issues that every other woman is facing, issues of gender-based violence, sexual violence. And a lot of these issues also are very much deeply rooted, very much systemic, and need to be tackled. And like I said, it's issues that are affecting most women in the world. Earlier, you were showing issues of women feminist strike that's happening in Spain, which means there's a lot that's happening that needs to change if we are to promote and ensure that there's gender equality.
Can you tell us briefly what you have done working with your organization towards those challenges that you mentioned and any achievements?
Our organization, With Africa, focuses on promoting gender equality. Some of the work that we've done is to address issues of child marriage, which is sexual violence of girls who are under the age of 18 in my country. And to that end, we have managed to take our government to the Constitutional Court to have our marriage laws. We were challenging our marriage laws because they are allowing girls to be married before they reach the age of 18. So we managed to do that Constitutional Court. In 2016, we got the Constitutional Court to declare that child marriages are illegal in Zimbabwe. So that's some of the work that we've been doing at policy level. We have also been working with traditional and religious leaders who are custodians of culture, because some of these practices are very much driven by social norms. So within our communities, traditional leaders and religious leaders play a very crucial role in terms of promoting gender equality or a lack of it. So we work with them within the communities to ensure that they are also within their traditional courts promoting, and when they interact with their subjects, they are promoting gender equality. They are denouncing issues of gender-based violence.
And lastly, what is your message on this very important day, and are you having any activities tomorrow?
Yes, my key message is that the theme for this year is Balance for Better. And it's a very beautiful message that calls us to look in the rearview mirror and celebrate the achievements that we have made so far within the feminist movement. Women can now take up some jobs that earlier back in the years they couldn't. Women can now vote in most countries. But it's also a day to reflect and say, what does balance for better mean? Balancing for better means that we are being honest and true to ourselves and realizing issues of power that needs to be challenged, and realizing that there are several groups of women and other, identities that are being left behind. So how do we ensure that our systems, our policies are reflective of a spirit that wants to promote gender equality? So it means questioning all that and challenging it and practically putting in place policies, structures that in financing, resourcing processes that allow for gender equality to happen.
Beatrice, we thank you so much for your time for Telesur English.
Thank you for having me.
We have been speaking with Beatrice Savadye. She's a children's rights activist from Zimbabwe. And now let's take a short break. Welcome back. The 3-day-long teacher strike in Argentina has entered its second day. Our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Edgardo Esteban, has the details.
The teachers' strike continues after large demonstrations took place on Wednesday. Teachers are demanding that the government raise their salaries, since it is estimated that 80% of teachers are earning just enough to cover their basic needs. The start of the 2019 school year was planned for Wednesday, but classes were paralyzed since teachers joined the rallies. Schools are expected to remain closed on Friday as well, because the teachers will join the International Women's Day demonstrations. For this reason, the opening of the school year is expected to take place on Monday. Next week, teachers' unions will meet to discuss further actions if the government does not provide a solution. Teachers are also demanding an increase of investment in school infrastructure and a raise in funds for technology and science material.
That was Edgardo Esteban from Buenos Aires. Bolivia is beginning to sell dollars to the public in a bid to sustain the economic stability of the country.
Bolivia has started selling dollars at a fixed rate in all currency exchange houses across the country as part of a state-initiated program to curb speculation. It's part of an agreement by the Banco Unión State Bank and the country's central bank.
Banco Unión and the central bank will work together to make sure the demand for dollars is met adequately. The people must trust in this mechanism, which will widen the possibility to buy dollars.
This new program comes 4 months after the country's opposition criticized the central bank's decision to stop selling dollars directly to the public, saying it was a sign that the country was going into crisis.
When we compare the level of international reserves with our own gross domestic product, we are among the top 2 economies in the world. Therefore, there is nothing to worry about. But nonetheless, false information was spreading last year on social media, making people very uneasy.
The Bolivian government has highlighted the country's stability as a great success. For 9 years, the exchange rate for the dollar has remained unchanged.
When we go to other countries like Argentina or Brazil, there is a big problem with getting dollars, and the exchange rate fluctuates all the time. With no set rate, we don't have those issues.
According to official numbers, Bolivia has been among one of the most well-developed economies in America for the last 5 years.
Venezuela's national electric company, Corpoelec, has reported sabotage at the hydroelectric generating plant in Guri. Corpoelec tweeted that the sabotage is part of the electricity war against the state. The account also said that it is working to restore the service. The opposition has a history of carrying out attacks on sites of the state-run power grid. Over 1,200 families have been forcibly evicted by the police from the city of Luque in Paraguay. The families were living in settlements built on public land before the authorities forced them out and burned down their homes. Just over 40 men, women, and children have reportedly been detained, and 20 people were left injured. According to Paraguay's housing ministry, the country has a housing deficit of 1 million homes. Social organizations say Colombia is going through a humanitarian crisis with a war between paramilitary groups and drug traffickers, forcing people to flee. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced. Let's find out more.
Zoraida is one of the 8 million victims of Colombia's internal conflict. She and her children have been forced to flee the region of Tibú. She's been living without any help from the government for 8 months.
When I first arrived, it was very difficult for me. I had no idea how to earn money. I begged God for help. I can't just turn back. I couldn't return to that place. I put myself in the hands of God.
According to the authorities, there are nearly 300,000 victims of forced displacement due to the ongoing war in the country. Half of these people come to the city of Cúcuta hoping for a better life. But the reality is very different.
They come here and are given some basic goods as a one-off. They should be helped for at least 3 months. They have nowhere to live. Landowners and NGOs come in and set up temporary shelters, but don't protect these people if their lives are in danger or if they are threatened.
And there seems to be no end in sight. In just 2 months, just under 300 people fled the armed conflict between paramilitaries and former guerrillas.
There's a big unemployment issue, and violence has not stopped at all. There's a lot of people being displaced due to violence, poverty, unemployment, lack of opportunities, lack of government help. So people flee to the cities, but they go hungry, with no shelter, so they are forced to once again return to the war zones.
Despite this homegrown humanitarian crisis, the Colombian government, rather than concentrating its efforts on resolving the situation, decided to amass close to 400 tons of food to send to Venezuela. Meanwhile, their own people starve and are driven to poverty.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. As the United States government imposes new sanctions on Zimbabwe, the president of Botswana has condemned the move by the Trump administration. President Masisi called on regional countries to rally behind Zimbabwe by calling for the removal of the sanctions. Telesur spoke to journalist and political commentator Gibson Nyikatsino to get the details.
The president of Botswana, Dr. Mokwetsi Masisi, this week he had a 2-day state visit in which he had been invited by his Zimbabwean counterpart, President Emmerson Mnangagwa, to witness the inaugural Bi-National Commission ceremony. The two heads of state, they agreed that Zimbabwe and Botswana are going to guarantee a $500 million extension in which Botswana is pledged to extend to Zimbabwe. At the same meeting, the president of Botswana, he made a clarion call to the West to remove the illegal sanctions they have imposed against Zimbabwe unconditionally.
There is no doubt that the sanctions on Zimbabwe are a major stumbling block with serious deleterious effect on the country's efforts towards full economic recovery.
He said it is time the Southern African Development Community, the regional body, should be able to speak with one voice. At this instance, President Masisi has broken tradition, going against the tall and foreign policy line in which his predecessor, President Ian Kama Seretse Kama, used to do. President Kama usually attacked Zimbabwe and also the revolutionary government led by ZANU-PF. Back to you.
Hundreds of people with albinism have rallied in the Malawian capital to protest against hostile treatment. Malawian albinos and supporters marched on the presidential palace. Protesters said the government has failed to provide solutions to repeated kidnapping attempts and killings. The country has experienced an increase in such attacks over the past 4 years. Many albinos are targeted for their body parts, which may be used in rituals.
Years now. This is the fifth year. We've been just looking forward to have our government acting, practically making practicals on things that they've been promising. Now, after seeing all these issues happening, we have decided that we should take it to hold a vigil. We decided to hold a vigil at the State House.
More than 1 week.
After a week, I went to the police to report the matter, and they turned me away. After another week, I went there again, and they told me to wait for assistance. And after that experience, I didn't go back to them.
5 farmers were killed in Nigeria after their vehicle hit a landmine on Wednesday. A truck bringing farmers and their harvest of cucumbers from nearby irrigation fields exploded when it hit a mine outside the town of Adamari. 20 people were injured. The attack was blamed on the Islamic State West Africa Province militant group.
We were going to the farm, and the first 3 trucks didn't have any problems. We were in the 4th, and the bomb got us.
A refugee midwife in South Sudan has taken up the challenge of training young people in midwifery. In a country with one of the world's worst maternal mortality rates, Grace Locio is determined to ensure that women do not die during childbirth. It's her way of contributing to women's well-being. So far, 36 young people have graduated and more are enrolling from all over the country.
Women are getting difficulties is truly in the part of not getting health services. If they were to have the health services, if they were to have the education, if they were to have all the necessities that other people get, I believe the woman in South Sudan would feel comfortable.
And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram for Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.